Welcome back, guys. So, I have a question for everyone watching. Who here thinks that it'd be great if they could take part in a 2,000-year-old ritual where you renew the sacrificial murder of our God, you eat his flesh and drink his literal blood. Here's a fun fact: you actually can. So here we are in Skyrim at REACHCLIFF Cave. I've already done NAMIRA'S quest, so there are no Draugr here, but we do have some cannibals inside the cave. So I thought this would be a good theme, way to talk about, eating Jesus' blood, drinking his blood in Holy Communion. You eat flesh and drink blood in this quest. I thought it's a strange, twisting theme of it, but yeah, like biblically speaking, even Martin Luther, as I recall, thought this was the case. We should eat Jesus' flesh and drink his blood. That is a biblical. That is not symbolic. The fact that it is liberal is a biblical principle. Zwingli may have denied it, but even Luther accepted it. So what does the Bible actually have to say about this? So we all know about Holy Communion and the Blessed Sacrament. Jesus used a lot of figures of speech, and Jesus did say in John chapter 6, "Eat my flesh, drink my blood." But not everything Jesus said in a "Great I Am" statement was a figure of speech. For example, Lazarus, when he rose from the dead, was not a figure of speech. When Jesus said that he would die and rise again, it is not a figure of speech. He literally died, and he literally rose again to bear real death. So what does the text in John chapter 6 say? So I don't have the text right in front of me. I'm doing this from memory, so bear with me. Open to John chapter 6, verses 35 through to 69. So after the bread of life during the bread of life dialogue, Jesus says that he will give them the bread will live forever, and they tell him, "Lord, give us this bread always." And he said, "The bread I will give you is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. For my bread is meat indeed, my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood abideth in me, and I in him." So the question is that symbolic? Is that a figure of speech? It is a fair question. It is entirely a fair question. But what does the Bible have to say about it? So, let's go read on. Let's see if Jesus gives any clarification in the Bible. So, I can even try that again. So if you read the Bible, people start wondering how is this Mary's son? Because it says he goes on talking about how he's come down from heaven, which he literally did. And they ask, how can this man give his flesh to eat? And they wonder what he means by this. So Jesus responds by saying, "My blood is meat indeed, my blood is drink indeed. Eat my flesh and drink my blood, abide in me and I in him." Now, when Jesus used the word eats, he used the word that means literally to gnaw. And I know a friend who did a word study on that word. In every case it is used in the Bible, it is used in a literal context. And in John chapter 6, he reinforces the literal imagery after people wondering how can this man give his flesh to eat, because they clearly think he's speaking literally. Jesus, rather than clarifying it as being symbolic, reinforces the literal imagery 3 times over. Now, there is a passage that people try to argue where Jesus, that he's only being symbolic, means this symbolically. And that would be where Jesus says, "The bread of against my flesh is the life of the world," and he says, "The flesh profits nothing, the words that give you spirit and life." So here's the problem. We're talking about Jesus' flesh here. So if you're a Christian, Tell me what is wrong with the following statement. Jesus' flesh profits us nothing. Whether even symbolically. No, unless you believe Jesus, if we're talking about Jesus' flesh, his literal flesh profits us everything. So you get a problem. Jesus did not even say that he didn't mean it literally. He just said it would profit you nothing. His spirit gives life, the flesh profits nothing. He doesn't even say it's symbolic. He says it profits nothing. There's a difference there. Take that. 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 So, what does he actually say? Jesus is actually saying that these people are concerned with the flesh. He says he's from above. The words that spoke to your spirit and life, i.e. the words of Jesus' teaching, namely, I've eaten his flesh, drink his blood, are spirit and life. They are worldly, fleshy people who don't want to accept Jesus' teaching. We know this is how they accepted it because if they intended this symbolic understanding, they would have stayed. Maybe why would you say over like a symbolic ritual that shows devotion? Who was supposed to be even a human Messiah? Not that crazy. There were symbolic things that are symbolic in devotion. Symbolic are quite common through the ancient world. And even in Judaism, think of the animal sacrifices. They wanted to call it a hard teaching, but they still call it a hard teaching. Hi, Aola.
You're one of NAMIRA'S faithful now.
Daughter of the Coven NAMIRA?
No. This coven has existed for thousands of years. NAMIRA is a goddess. She has been worshipped since time began. I'm honored to be leading the latest generation of NAMIRA'S faithful, those who have embraced what they are. Until next time.
It's an honor, Keeper of the Ring.
Praise to you, champion.
Yeah, this is kind of like a messed up place. But yeah. Just always do the quest. You get a nice ring out of it. But yeah, like, and Jesus is willing to lose even. But what's interesting is that Jesus loses followers over this. They would not have left if it was just symbolic, almost certainly. Like, a sign of devotion to the promised Messiah would not have been a big deal. Talk about Jesus, him going on literally eating his flesh and drinking his blood, reinforcing it 3 times, and calling everyone who won't accept it carnal worldlings. Yeah, I can see why people would leave over that. But what's interesting is also a testimony to the early church about how they understood this passage. The early church 1000% understood it as being literal. So I know people try to quote later church fathers, almost certainly out of context, like 4th century. But if you look at what the earliest fathers believe, the earliest Christians, notably St. Ignatius of Antioch, 1st century. In his letter to the Smyrnians, he says, they, i.e. heretics, do not abstain from the Eucharist because they don't believe it's the flesh of our Savior Jesus Christ. And he also goes on to these people to deny a bunch of other things, notably they deny that Jesus rose from the dead, etc., and he combines both heresies and says, they're essentially the same heresy. He marries the two together as being just as bad. And he says, if they deny that Jesus present real blood, truly present blessed sacrament, you should shun them. They are not saved. They will not rise again in glory. He literally says that in so many words. So, not only is real presence of the Blessed Sacrament the biblical, not only is it taught in the early church, it's also biblical, and from the teachings of the early church, that it is mandatory for salvation. Because not only did Jesus turn away people, not only does that show that's true, because he told the apostles, it says in the Gospels that he clarified everything to the apostles, he says, you also go away. i.e., this is the truth, accept it or get out. Peaceably includes even the apostles over this doctrine. That tells you that belief in Jesus and the sacrament is not an optional extra. Irenaeus of Lyon says that they will not rise again in glory. You should shun them. Like, this is something that the Bible and the other church believed as mandatory for salvation. To believe it too, and I have to believe what Jesus says. He told the apostles, like, he reinforced the literal imagery 3 times. He told the apostles that if they didn't accept it, they could go. He was willing to lose followers and did lose followers over it. And the earliest church fathers we have who talked about this, who believed in basic resurrection, etc., believed it was Jesus' literal flesh and blood. And like, that's not a teaching you're going to teach to be accepted by society. You only would teach it because it is true. Anyway, those are some basic thoughts. God bless. Have a great day. If you get a chance, check out SSPX Church, where they're still teaching A, that belief in real presence is true, and B, that it's mandatory for salvation. Get a chance, look them up. God bless.